You ever watch a movie and halfway through realize you can't even remember the main character's name? Like you're sitting there going, wait, what's her deal again? That's kind of how the Star Wars sequels felt. We were promised the next Luke Skywalker, the next Han Solo, the next Leia, and instead we got people, in space, doing things. And it's weird because at first you think, oh, wow, this could actually be something. Rey's mysterious past, Finn's Stormtrooper rebellion, Poe's daredevil charisma, Kylo's inner conflict. It's like ordering the best-sounding meal on the menu, and then the waiter brings you a plate that looks great but tastes like it was made entirely of cardboard and marketing notes. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they were bad actors. In fact, the cast was the best thing about the sequels, but you can only do so much when the scripts keep treating your character arc like a game of hot potato. One director sets something up, the next one throws it away, and the third one's just trying to get to the end credits without the whole thing catching fire. It's like the sequels were allergic to character development. Rey learns a lesson and immediately forgets it. Finn's setup as a potential leader disappears in favor of comic relief. Poe's whole growth about humility gets tossed so he can make more smirky comments. And Kylo, oh Kylo, the galaxy's moodiest spaceboy, who somehow went from killing his dad to being redeemed in less time than it takes to heat up a Hot Pocket. And what's crazy is Star Wars used to be the gold standard for memorable characters. Even the ones who barely spoke had personality. Boba Fett says practically nothing and still became a legend. Lando's only in 2 movies, and fans still quote him. The sequels had triple the budget and somehow gave us triple the nothing. In this video, we're going to break down exactly why the Star Wars sequels failed to give us characters worth remembering, from the writing choices that killed their potential, to the moments that could have made them legends but didn't, and how this one, fatal flaw, turned what should have been the most exciting era of Star Wars into the most forgettable one. It's strange when you think about it. Star Wars has always been known for its characters, just as much as its space battles and lightsabers. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Leia Organathas, names became part of pop culture in a way few fictional characters ever do. Even side characters like Lando or Boba Fett built entire fan followings from just a handful of scenes. So when Disney launched the sequels, it seemed like a no-brainer. New trilogy, new icons, a new generation of heroes and villains to carry the torch. We got Rey, Finn, Poe, and Kylo Ren. On paper, that's a solid lineup. The mysterious scavenger with hidden power, the stormtrooper who broke free, the daring pilot, and the conflicted dark side heir. All archetypes that should have worked. And for a brief moment in The Force Awakens, it felt like maybe they would. There were glimmers of intrigue, questions about Rey's past, Finn's escape from the First Order, Kylo's obsession with Vader's legacy. But here's the thing. Memorable characters aren't just about a flashy introduction. They stick with you because they grow, change, and reveal new layers over time. Han Solo didn't just start as a charming smuggler. He became a hero who risked it all for his friends. Vader went from a terrifying enforcer to a tragic father who sacrificed himself for his son. It's the journey that makes them unforgettable. The sequels gave us characters with setups that begged for payoffs. Rey's parentage, Finn's moral awakening, Poe's reckless leadership, Kylo's inner conflict. Here's where things start to get maddening. Because instead of building these characters into legends, the sequels kept hitting the reset button. Rey would have a big moment of growth, only for the next movie to treat her like she was still figuring out the basics. Finn was set up as a revolutionary, but by the third movie he was running around yelling Rey's name like a lost tourist at Disneyland. Poe had an arc in The Last Jedi about learning humility and leadership, and then the rise of Skywalker just turned him into a snarky pilot again, as if none of that growth happened. Kylo Ren's inner struggle between light and dark should have been the emotional core of the trilogy, but instead it felt like he was moody one minute, murderous the next, and suddenly redeemed because reasons. And this is the thing, Star Wars has had inconsistent writing before, but it never felt this scattershot. In the original trilogy, even when Lucas didn't have everything planned, you could feel the characters naturally progressing. In the sequels, it felt like each director was making their own movie without caring about the last one's setup. It's honestly sad when you realize how quickly these characters faded from the cultural conversation. When the original trilogy ended, kids were pretending to be Luke or Han on playgrounds for years. People were quoting Yoda, dressing up as Leia, even building homemade Boba Fett costumes. But after the sequels wrapped up, it was hard to find anyone passionately debating Rey versus Finn, or reminiscing about Poe's greatest moments. Kylo Ren probably came the closest to leaving a mark, but even then, most of the discussion around him was about wasted potential. He could have been a modern-day Vader, a complex and layered villain for a new generation. Instead, he became more of a case study in inconsistent writing than an enduring pop culture figure. It's not just about legacy, it's about connection. Star Wars has always been more than special effects. It's about characters you feel like you know. When Han died in The Force Awakens, even people who hadn't watched Star Wars in decades felt it. When Leia talked Luke down from leaving in Return of the Jedi, it mattered because we had been on that journey with them. The sequels didn't give us that same emotional investment. By the time The Rise of Skywalker rolled credits, there wasn't a moment where I felt that bittersweet ache of saying goodbye to old friends. And that's because they never really became friends in the first place. It's the kind of missed opportunity that lingers, because these could have been the characters entire generations grew up loving. And instead, they became background noise in their own trilogy. And that's the thing when Star Wars characters do work. It's magical. Look at Darth Maul, a character with maybe 15 minutes of screen time in The Phantom Menace. But his design, his duel, his music, his presence, they made him unforgettable. And when the Clone Wars expanded his story, it felt like a gift, because the foundation was already that strong. Or take Ahsoka Tano. Introduced in the Clone Wars movie to a lukewarm reception, she evolved into one of the most beloved characters in Star Wars history. Not because she was flawless, but because we saw her grow, fail, and change over time. That's the magic formula. Give the audience someone compelling, and then let them become legendary. But here's the thing. Star Wars has recovered from weak characters before. The prequels were criticized for their wooden dialogue and underdeveloped personalities. But look what happened when the Clone Wars gave us time with Anakin, Obi-Wan, and even the clones themselves. They became richer, more complex, and genuinely beloved. The same can happen with the sequel characters. Finn could get a Disney Plus series exploring his life after the war. Rey could actually face meaningful challenges that test her beliefs. Poe could grow into the seasoned leader the movies hinted at but never fully explored. Kylo could even return in some form, diving deeper into his struggles beyond a rushed redemption. Star Wars is a universe built for second chances. Boba Fett was a background bounty hunter who got more famous after dying in a hole. Darth Maul was literally cut in half and still came back to become one of the saga's most compelling villains. The door is never truly closed on a character, and if Lucasfilm commits to telling stories that dig deeper instead of wider, the sequels could still give us icons worth remembering. It's not too late for these characters to matter in a way they didn't on the big screen. All it takes is the courage to slow down, focus on growth, and give the audience a reason to care again. And Star Wars has pulled off bigger comebacks before. The tragedy of the sequels isn't that they failed to make money or attract audiences. It's that they had every tool to create the next generation of unforgettable Star Wars characters and still came up empty. It's like being handed a blank canvas, the finest paints, and the legacy of the greatest art series ever. And painting something that looks fine at first glance, but leaves no lasting impression. Rey, Finn, Poe, and Kylo could have been names etched into pop culture history. Instead, they're trivia questions for future Star Wars fans. And that's not because the actors weren't talented, they're wits, because the writing never let them become legends. When Star Wars works, it gives you people to root for, cry over, and quote, endlessly. Characters you think about years later, when you hear a piece of music, or see a sunset. The sequels never found that heartbeat. And without it, no amount of lightsabers or space battles can save you. It's not about hating the sequels, it's about mourning what they could have been. A new era of characters worthy of standing alongside Luke, Leia, and Han. The ones kids would pretend to be, the ones fans would write stories about, the ones whose journeys we'd follow to the end. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please consider looking at my pinned comment and checking out the links for my Amazon storefront. It contains my favorite Legos, my gear in which I make videos, and comics that I read on a daily basis. I update it constantly, so please, take a moment and click on the link. On top of that, check out my second channel, Critical Analysis Hub Plus, and my third channel, Critical Analysis Hub XP. Just one click would go on a long way in supporting my channels and future in YouTube.